The One Piece trading card game's newest set, OP10, is set to release soon here in the West. And with that comes new leaders, new cards, a new meta. But one thing I do want to go before we get into the tier list is that I keep seeing a lot of misinformation on the ban list. We know that there's a ban list coming this weekend after the World Championships. One thing that we really need to remember though is that this ban list is for Japan, right? This is for the Eastern meta. Eventually, the West may adopt it or may adapt into something immediately for the West, but that is not confirmed and that is not like a thing that is officially happening. So just because we're getting a ban list soon does not mean that the West is going to adopt it right away, especially on the first days of OP10. Now, they might eventually come out and say that this is going to be worldwide, right? We know that there are worldwide releases happening here in 2026, right, with the upcoming sets. But as of right now, when this video comes out and when you're probably watching this and when it's on your, my page or whatever, we don't know what the West is going to do. If the West knows that they're taking the ban list right away, for example, or maybe they're adopting it halfway through the set, or maybe at the start of OP11. We'll visit back to this and adjust when we get there. So 3 months ago when OP10 came out in the East in Japan, this is what I predicted what I thought the meta was going to be like. Now, obviously, there are a couple different changes on here, so I'm going to spend most of my time editing this tier list, and the first one that I'm going to do is move down red, yellow, law to a couple tiers. I know some people like Yansuko, right, are really high on it, and I totally get it, but I really just don't see it for this leader. It literally did not do anything in Japan. It just didn't. There's just some stuff missing. The swarm to battle their swarm, and it's not really, is it even really swarm? It's just inferior to like 5 life leaders like Doflamingo. The on-play effects of Blackbeard, like, can you go wide enough for that? It's just missing a supernova piece or two in the puzzle to be able to put it to the next level, in my opinion. I will move up to OP10 leaders though in Usopp and Kid. Both of these leaders are some of the best leaders to come out of OP10, and I mean, even though Smoker won the Asia final, if you look at the different results of OP10, and I will show the exact numbers of results of decks in the OP10 Eastern meta, these two were the top of the game. I will say also that Usopp, being a blue-black leader, probably is also going to trend really well in the West, being a very good deck. It's highly likely that there's just a lot of people playing on this because they just miss like the Sakazuki vibe, even though in my opinion it's a pretty different deck to Sakazuki. I'm also going to move down Buggy into the local warrior tier. Buggy had that really cool showing, right? That one tournament with that Buggy promo. And we do know that the Buggy promo is officially coming to the West through OP10 release events. Unfortunately, though, I don't think that it consistently makes it good enough to be able to go. And I think it had a better shot in the Eastern meta than the Western meta, right? It's a really hard counter into stuff like Doflamingo and Blackbeard. But unfortunately for the deck, I think the West will deviate a little bit more and play more decks, right? Stuff like Black Yellow Luffy, like Pluffy. Especially, I mean, I just talked about Usopp, right? So when it's a tournament that you can't expect to hit Doflamingo like 5 times, it makes your game plan like it works less. So I think moving this down is pretty fair. I'm also going to move these two down, right? Green Purple Doflamingo and Rebecca. Green Purple Doflamingo was super hyped up at the beginning of 10 when it first released out in the East, and I said, I don't really know if I believe it or not, and it did not show up at all. It was not great. There were some local warriors in those flagships, right, that were able to do stuff, but it was really tough. Rebecca is one that I might move up to 2.5, especially if some Westerners do really well with it. I do know that Rebecca, I believe, got 9th place in one of the Japan Championship series that we usually talk about on the channel, just one spot off of a top 8 cut. But I just, in the games that I've watched, in that the stuff that I've seen about it, it's like you just play Usopp, right? Just play Usopp. They do different things and they have different functionalities, but Usopp, I think, just does what it wants to do better rather than Rebecca. Also, this is the last time I let Strongest Wizard convince me of something like Kinemon. Purple Yellow Croc, I'm also moving down. There are some things in Purple Yellow Croc that I really thought of, like the Basil Hawkins coming in, that I'm like, oh man, this could be super interesting with the deck and like these different things, but it definitely did not pan out, right? I would keep Robin, Vegapunk, and Foxy right here, but Croc, although I love the Laker Croc, it's got to go down. I will also move Lim up to 2.5. So if you did not see in the Asia finals, Lim had made a top 16 or top 8, a top 8 position in the Asia finals. We covered that match, and I've been playing a lot of Lim. I would say in my leading up to OP10 testing, Lim is the one that I've tested the most. I think Lim can honestly keep up within this format, and it's really close to being like a tier 2 viable deck. It did only have one showing overall in the top 8s, and I think it's more so because it's like an underexplored archetype, but especially after Adri got that top 8 finish, who knows, maybe some Westerners like me will try to pop off with the deck and maybe it can move up into a tier 2 category. As much as I hate to say it, I am going to put Nami in tier 2. It's or 2.5. It's debatable on going into 3. I love Nami. It's my favorite deck of all time. I love playing it, but I think, and I'll talk more about this later, these 4 decks really can just annihilate Nami, right? Doflamingo can do its usual thing, right? You know that stopping the on-play effects just hurts Nami so bad, especially when you stop its wing condition. Pluffy can kind of do the same thing that Doflamingo can, but worse. And then you have Black Yellow Luffy, which if Black Yellow Luffy just finds those 5-drop punch Luffys from the starter deck, you just lose, right? It can be a winning matchup, but if they just find those, then it sits all over at that point. So I think like the big swarm of the board right here on these top decks just really hurts Nami overall, especially when we start talking about these decks up here. I think it'll make a lot more sense for Nami. I'm also going to move Boa Hancock to 2.5, I think. It's funny, after I had made that one tier list video and literally like a couple days later, Boa ended up having that huge run, and I think it was the Australian regionals. I got so many people commenting like, oh, Boa, you did Boa so bad, blah, blah, blah. There was nothing for Boa at that point. Now, I do think Boa does have a lot of viability, right? It has very, very strong removal presence. But the problem is, I think there's a couple things about Boa that just try to copy Doflamingo, and they just do it worse. I do think you have a very interesting matchup into something like Doflamingo, right? Because your removal is honestly better than Doflamingo, right? Your removal is entirely, like, your deck revolves around removal because removal is how you use your leader effect. So I think that's one of the things that can really help it out in a lot of different matchups heading into the format. I'm also going to keep Smoker up here. I think Smoker winning the Asia finals was huge, right? It gave a lot of people a way to play Smoker. And then also I know there's people like Eggman that are really experimenting with new methods with Smoker that I actually really like. The Straw Hat package, I don't know if it's better than the package that won the Asia finals, but having multiple ways to play and strategize, right, with different strategies. How many times can I say that in a sentence without it not making sense? I think there's reason to believe that this is going to catch a lot more waves than it did in Japan. Lucci, I think, is on the tail end of its tier 2-ness, to be honest. I think Lucci is like very much on its downfall. It might be close to like a 2.5. I'm definitely going to put this purple black Luffy down there. I almost forgot to do that. It's missing something. It can't be this and this in the same deck. There's just not enough space. But like I It's really close to being put down here. This is very much like walking a fine line. I'm not sure, but with Lucci being something that so many people have played so many times. I mean, think about the last couple months of the OP09 format, of how many people were like, oh no, I don't know about Lucci. Like, there's so many other good decks. There's so many other cool decks. And then all of a sudden, like, they show up to the regional and they show up to One Piece Day and they're playing Lucci. Just so many people are so familiar with the deck, and there are so many things that it can do well and consistently, that I just feel like Lucci is like still a good and viable deck to pilot. It's like, it's one of the best like removal decks that we have. I might also move Anel to 2.5. I feel like, it's so interesting. Like, to be fair, Anel did have a couple different appearances in the different top 8s that we had in this format. So it's like reasonably to be a good deck. And I think it's also a safe deck to like get the first couple rounds on like free wins, right? If you go to like a regional or something, the first couple rounds, you have a pretty good shot with Anel to go 3-0, because it's just generally a difficult deck to play against, right? Your odds of hitting someone, especially at a regional level, right? Maybe not at like nationals, but especially at a regional level, that just don't know how to play against the deck. And so you just outright win that way. But then you have the other times when you are playing against experienced players and you are facing bad matchups as you're playing Anel, but you just happen to hit a 0 cost on the last life, right? And then you also seem to hit a Nami trigger or a Frankie or something, and you just win that way. And that's just how the game is designed sometimes. So like, I'm gonna leave it in 2. Now, I think one of the things about this tier list is Starter Deck 21 Luffy. The new upcoming starter deck is not in here. I would put it in the YouTube bait category. Like, it's not that good. Just play a different leader. Just play another red leader. There are so many better ones like Zoro, or just play Ace, I guess. Even like Choppa or Sanji. We love a good PRB Sanji in here. But the final thing I'm going to do is talk about the tier 1 category. And actually what I am going to do is make a tier 0 category. And I'm going to put Doflamingo and Marshall D. Teach up here. I kind of believe that there's a separation of tiers right here, and I'm going to talk about the separation of tiers. Thinking about the Eastern results, these were easily the top 2 best decks, and I think Pluffy was the third most popular deck in the room. Maybe even sometimes the second most popular deck in a room in a single tournament. Black Yellow Luffy doesn't have necessarily the results to make it a respectable, just purely looking at the Eastern format. But think about all the different tournaments that we've seen in the Eastern format, and then think about the Western format. The Western format loves this deck. This deck also gets more options with specifically the 1 cost beige, right? I have a feeling that this deck is going to continue to be successful in the West, especially pre-ban list. I think it's just really good at what it does. Similar to Rob Lucci, I think some people have just played it for so long and know it so well that it's just going to be wildly successful, right? Sure, you've got some tough matchups here and there, and some things are really difficult, but I feel like you've got a pretty good shot to be a top dog within this game, and it wouldn't surprise me if 1 or 2 regionals, a couple regionals this upcoming format, Black Yellow Luffy stole the show and won the whole thing. In terms of the tier 0 conversation, I went ahead and looked back at all of the different tournaments within this format and compiled a list of how many decks of each archetype made the top 8 or, top 16. I think this one was like top 32. Yeah, 32 right here. Just top cut, right? And here were the different populations. Doflamingo and Blackbeard were vastly the top 2 decks and the most populous deck. Every single tournament, the most populous deck was one of those 2 in the top cut. And I don't think that's by surprise. I think that these 2 leaders right here are very obviously pre-ban list as well. Who knows, maybe once we do get the ban list and when the West will adopt it, this will change maybe. We'll revisit that in another video when that happens, if it happens. But as it stands right now, these are most definitely tier 0 decks. Although Doflamingo doesn't get anything in 10, I think just its pure strategy of what it's doing and what it can so consistently do makes it still a top dog. And then Blackbeard getting the new Liberation event, also getting the 5-cost Kuzan and having different ways to play it, right? Also just make this deck insanely broken. It's crazy. And I think the results showed right here. And think about NA as well. Think about North America, think about Europe, think about Canada, think about Latin America, Australia. Is Australia part of the West? I mean, they're part of the Western format, but aren't they on like the eastern side of the world? Anyways, think of outside of Asia, especially in North America. Players just play the best decks. They don't have so much as like an identity to their favorite leaders or their favorite decks, right? Especially North American players, they just gravitate to whatever they think is the best deck. And so I think especially these 4 right here, these 4 are going to do so much. Specifically these 3, Doflamingo, Blackbeard, and Black Hill Luffy, I think are going to be insane in the format. I think they're going to be played a ton. I think people are going to get tired of it. And I can't wait for people to talk about the bans of card XYZ and ABC and having it join these guys down here, Sakazuki and Law. But yeah, this is what I feel like is the Western format of OP10. Again, ban list. If a ban list comes out and we get official notice of when the West is adopting said ban list, which we have no idea officially what is going to happen with the West, I want to reiterate, then I will revisit this. But I want to do it before because there might be some time potentially that we have like this format before the ban list. I mean, who knows what Bandai is going to do? It's so hard to predict a lot of times what Bandai is going to do. And so, yeah. That's it. Let me know what you disagree with, but be nice about it in here. There's probably something that I'm missing. I feel like I like this format of revisiting my old tier list and like removing it around after watching an entire Eastern format of this. But I feel like sometimes I do forget to move something. But I feel pretty good about this one this time. I feel like Pudding, I don't think I move until 11 comes out. Marco, I think, can also move a little bit when 11 comes out. I've seen a lot of 11 results of Marco that are really, really neat. But yeah, that's going to be OP10. I don't really think OP10 is going to shake a lot of the meta. It'll just be, there will be some cool new decks that are introduced that are playable. And they kind of resurge some of these decks like Lim, right, gets surged up in 10. And Bello Betty also. Bello Betty goes up in 10. It is more viable, but I think it's much better in 11 as of right now, pre-ban list. I will do an OP11 ban list for the Eastern meta, but I think I actually do want to wait until after the ban list is announced, right? Because we do know that that is more than likely going to start right away in the Eastern meta. So I think I want to wait until that comes out to do it. So then, because I am a little bit late to the game, but big news coming soon. Again, make sure to like, comment, subscribe if you're watching this and you thought you had a fun time, and I will talk to you guys soon because there's some big things coming soon. I can't wait to tell you about them, and I will see you later.